an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Season 4, Episode 7. I Will Help You. In this episode, Rebecca has to go and visit her mother. And honestly, I don't know how people exist in those universes, but it seems so exhausting. Also, Nathaniel tries to be a decent person, and Josh just tries to be a person. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Lauren for commissioning this episode. So, okay, I wanted to talk about something right off the top, which is this season as a whole. And it's not like I want to make a judgment call at this point, because obviously we still have several episodes to go. Not that many, though. There's only like 4, I think, remaining. That said, I will say that I'm really liking this season better than the previous season. I feel like I understand what the previous season was trying to do, and it mostly accomplished it, but there was a lot of unevenness, for me anyway. And this season in particular, it feels like they have their feet under them a little bit more. And I also, I've said before that really for me, what seemed to be the bit where oh no, wait, there's a lot more. I keep doing this, don't I? There is a disconnect for me with the character of Nathaniel. And this episode decides that they're going to try and deal with him. And in some ways I liked it, and in some ways I would really rather spend time with other characters. I don't know if it's just me. I would be interested to hear on y'all's opinions of Nathaniel and his place in the story. This is what I was talking about with Owen today, because he previously had been, every time that it was time for me to record another Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, he wanted to watch it with me and was really indignant if I watched the episode without him. And sort of it's changed, and he hasn't really been as eager. I'll watch an episode without him and he won't really seem to care. And we were talking about the reason why today, and there have been a couple episodes that I liked more than him this season. So that's certainly part of it, is just, it's subjective, But he, when we talked about stumbling blocks, also cited Nathaniel. And he said that his problem was sort of that we're supposed to be invested in this incredibly privileged asshole learning to be better. And I'm really tired of caring about really privileged assholes and being told that I should actually empathize with them, because really they have it hard and they're nice maybe inside. And really that's a pretty good summary of where I'm at. And it's not even the show comments on the fact that he's doing a white savior thing this episode. Just opening your checkbook doesn't fix everything. And obviously they're trying to lampshade that particular criticism. And I appreciate that when it seems like they have foreseen what people's problems will be with a thing. And they aren't trying to pretend that that problem isn't real. They just feel like they need to address it at least a little, and then they'll just move on. But Nathaniel, it really does kind of feel like with him, that's sort of the best we're going to get. I don't know. I might be wrong, but when it comes down to it, I don't think that I really care if I'm wrong or not. I think that's the main issue, is just feeling like, well, maybe I'll be wrong, but if I am, I don't really give a shit if I've been wrong. It's not like a thing for me. So, the whole I have appreciated circling back around and admitting that he's a dickhead, but I'm not really like committed to his rehabilitation in that respect. So, like I would much rather every segment that we've spent the time with him, it's been with Heather, or White Josh. We hardly have seen anything about what he's particularly up to. And, like I said, I just don't really know where we're heading. I might, eat my own words later on, but I just wanted to get it out of the way because I know I've been sort of talking about the fact that I'm not into him in general, but the assessment of this show has been, for me talking about it with Owen, just sort of when Rebecca begins to address her issues and her problems, a lot of what made the show so entertaining previous to this was her wackiness, because of the fact that she was leaning into some of her worst impulses and doing things that were just wildly bad judgment and dangerous in their way. Having her be better is, unfortunately, less entertaining to watch in some ways. So the show has to figure out a way to balance that and keep it interesting while still being honest about like who she is and what her deal is. And thus they have had to pull in more from the side characters it's not to say that Rebecca's like all better now and so her story's over. Obviously not. There's a lot going on this episode with her. But it feels like is sort of going on with her is muted a little bit from what it was because she's more self-aware about it. So she'll catch it or she'll begin to see a little sooner. So you have to have other people who are struggling with their own things and attempting to also be better or maybe unaware of their issues. You need somebody to fill that role. And it feels like they kind of want that to be Nathaniel a little bit. And I feel like that's a bit where the falling off of like the eagerness to watch the next one has come from. Anyway, I just wanted to, whenever I have a conversation with Owen about a show that I'm covering, especially because he like hosted an episode with me, I like to incorporate our conversation a little bit because sometimes it will lead me to realizing something that I had been feeling but didn't realize I was feeling, or he'll put words to it that are slightly better. Let's see. Lauren says, I see what you're saying. I don't need all villain characters on my shows to become good guys. They already switched Valencia from an enemy to a friend. That's true too. Megan says, I enjoy the first 2 seasons more than the last 2. But I feel like I'm betraying the mental health message. Well, that's the thing. We all want what's better for Rebecca, but what's better for her is less entertaining. And like I said, you need to be able to pull in somebody to cover for that when you lose the extreme drama from her angle. And what's going on this season is much less high stakes in terms of drama. We've got Nathaniel just trying to be nicer and do something good. Not super interesting. We've got Josh Chan learning to do laundry and clean a house. We've got Rebecca putting down boundaries with her mother. Now, I did like that bit, but again, it still feels very low stakes because the whole thing with her mother, it's not we were seeing the kinds of stalking that could put you in jail kind of thing in the first season. And now we're just having like sort of personal hangups. And it just feels like there's less on the line, just the stakes are overall lower. How do we get that back? What they did initially was include Trent and his return. Good idea. You have Rebecca beginning to sort of figure out that she's got an issue, and Trent steps in and this whole thing goes completely left. Trent's a great substitute. It feels like they really wanted to give the actor who plays Nathaniel some work, and they could either have him try to be a better person or just lean into being a complete dickhead, which I feel like is not necessarily interesting, but might be really entertaining. I maybe would have preferred that. Not everybody grows. That's just like facts. Or we could get his, father more involved and have him be, there are ways I think that maybe we could have amped up the stakes so far. And I may, again, eat my words because as I said, I thought that we only had like 5 or 6 episodes left, but we've got like 10 practically. So maybe I'll be like, oh, I really long for the days when the stakes were lower. Luis says, the show went from a very cartoony level of drama to a more real life level. Yeah, and so this is why when I talk about the episodes with you guys, I really enjoy them. And when I begin to discuss certain sections, I can relate deeply. I can absolutely appreciate the acting, the issues that they're addressing, and it feels genuinely done, well done, but you don't have that, oh my God, what's going to happen sort of feeling at the end that makes you immediately run to put on the next one. It's a shame because I want to feel that, but you have to have somebody who's going to just completely go balls out. And, what do you do? Anna says, I like that they continue with Nathaniel's character arc only because it tells people that being an asshole isn't an incurable condition and therefore holds them accountable. It's true, but also I do feel like we had that already a little bit. It's, there's pluses and minuses to everything. This is part of the problem with having an incredibly privileged white dude who's super attractive be like a major character. A new season regular, it limits what you can do on a show like this in some ways, because you're trying to do something that's like addressing issues, but you've chosen a person who is sort of an avatar for all of the things that I have started to lose sympathy for and become less interested in. Lauren says, I binged the first 3 seasons and a half of the 4th, but then I wanted to savor it and wait for the podcast coverage. So I think I feel you on wanting to discuss it as part of the enjoyment. Yeah, I feel like that's really, when I talk about it with Owen, especially afterward, he will like come out of an episode not really feeling too strongly about it. And once we start to talk about it, he'll see what I mean about why I liked it, but he's not like excited. And I think that's also, another thing that's sort of gonna happen is that the musical numbers I don't like as much, because that's what the show is. It feels like they're doing them as a matter of course, but they don't always feel quite as like appropriate to the moment as they did in other episodes where it really felt that Rebecca's mind was so wildly out of control that these musical numbers suited the insanity of what was happening around her or happening inside her. And, we start to run out of genres to imitate. We start to sort of like do a little bit more and branch out so much that we're doing slightly more niche stuff. And then eventually we get to a song that's just like the duration of the Beach Boys and all of the transformations that they went to with a song that's too long. And, that said, this episode has one of the better musical numbers of the past several episodes to me, which is the Forget It. So I really did like that one, but I think that it's just a little bit harder as you go on and you keep trying to like pull up something that you can spoof, and you've done so many things already. It's just thin, on the ground to like pick new ideas. Megan says, my notes for this episode, How to Clean Up is my favorite song, and Lin-Manuel Miranda was supposed to be the frame shop guy in Naomi's song, but something came up and he couldn't do it. Oh my God, that would have been... I have such mixed feelings about that guy. He's one of those that like, it feels like everybody loves him, and he seems very much like fine to me. Like he seems like a perfectly nice guy, but there's like, I haven't seen Hamilton still. And there's a whole thing with him. He had a moment. I feel like the moment's like ending now. But, man, he was not great in Mary Poppins. Like, some things where I'm just like, what are you doing here, man? It feels like he's just thrown into stuff because he is who he is, and it's a joke in itself. And I did a double take assuming it was LMM, so they cast it right. Oh, shit. I didn't. All right. I'll have to pay attention to that when we get back there. So anyway, all right. I spent 15 minutes talking about the show in general. Let me talk about the episode itself. So we start out with Rebecca, and she is volunteering at the prison still with the women, offering her lawyer services. And I was really happy to see this again. I had said before that I liked a lot that she mentioned she's still doing it because it wasn't brought up often, and I wasn't certain if we were supposed to assume she was. So I really appreciated it being specifically referenced, and we know that she's continuing with that because it's important. And then getting to see it in action was really nice. I wasn't sure if we would ever come back here because of the fact that she had sort of left behind being a lawyer in some ways. So she is going to be, going off to see her mother. So she won't be here, and she's preparing all of them for the fact that she won't be, telling them about how Paula is coming here. And I love the fact that there is this like parole that is supposed to be coming up, and they all sort of assume they have it in the bag. And it turns out, and I can't remember this woman's name, but she has unpaid parking tickets, and there was a warrant out for her, and because she was already in jail, she couldn't show up to the summons, of course. But now she's got all of these, these outstanding fees on top of the ones that she already had. And guys, look. She needs to go into court and argue her case about why this is unfair with lawyers. And they need to explain it. What are we doing as a fucking world, everybody? She was already in jail when the summons was served. She couldn't come. Seems like something that just one human fucking being should be able to say to another fucking human being who has a law degree and is allegedly intelligent, without involving a whole goddamn circus around it and having to prove how the law allows this. The fact that we have to go through this song and dance in the first place is obscene. And just another piece of evidence in the, if you're rich, you can do what you want. If you're poor, you're fucked. If you're rich, you're just paying for permission to do stuff. It's like, it's a fee so that you get to do whatever you like. Not a fine, because it doesn't look that way when you have so much money that the $150 fine is just what you would pay for fucking parking anyway, oh my God. It gets me so angry, and it just makes me like blind with rage. This kind of like, it's so simple. This shouldn't be. That's it. End of sentence. It shouldn't be. Can we end cash bail? Can we end fines for things like this? Look, I know that's how a lot of these fucking places get their funding. Guess what? That's so fucked up. How about we just raise taxes on rich people the way we should have been fucking doing this entire time? Okay. I'm stopping now, but seriously. So, she goes to visit her mom, and Paula comes in and gets very invested very quickly, as she sort of has a similar reaction as I do, except hers is all inside. You guys, there's just so little logic. It's just, it's men did this. Men built these laws and the system, and they tell us that we're illogical, and then they do shit like this and build this. And it's just, what are you talking about? There's no logic to this at all. You liars. You fucking liars. Shut up. I said I was going to stop and then I didn't stop. Okay, I'm stopping now. Okay, so, oh my God. Luis just said, I think it's in Germany that speeding fines are a percentage of your annual income. Wow. That's hardcore. That also feels like, it feels like it should be a progressive thing where it's like, if you make under, let's say, $30,000 a year, it's like 0.25%. But if you make over $100,000 a year, it should be like 20%. You know what I mean? Anyway, okay. So, because, flat tax also has its problems. That's all. Okay, I'm done. I swear I'm done. Okay. So, Paula is so committed to trying to figure this out that despite the fact that she's still on the clock and really supposed to be doing actual work for the actual law firm that she actually works for, she sneaks out to go and continue to work on this case and help this woman. And in the midst of all of this, Nathaniel is trying very hard to be nicer to people. So there's this whole thing with Tim and Jim where he brings in donuts and the two of them don't want to eat them because they think it's a trick, which honestly, there is no reason not to think that. That scene is highly suspect. I would definitely feel the same fucking way if I were them, especially because he is so anti-junk food and so judgmental about what everybody eats, including himself, that kind of treat being what he's offering would feel extra suspicious to me. No. He continues on with I went to a pumpkin patch with my mom. She was surprised to get the invite, but I have a whimsical photo. He's trying. It's honestly a pretty good, depiction of what a person who isn't nice thinks being nice means. And finally, he notices that Paul is not there because he's trying to find her for something. And Tim, I think, is the one who blurts out, she's definitely not working on the company clock pro bono for the women in the prison. And he heads down there. And of course, Paula, when she sees him, is just like, motherfucker. She thinks that she has gotten nailed and it's going to be a problem. Instead, Nathaniel has decided that he is going to represent this woman and he is going to pay her fines. And this ends in a great scene where the judge is like, yeah, this seems totally reasonable. Just pay the original fines and we'll be golden. And Paula says, because he's feeling really good, he just did something virtuous and it's an unfamiliar feeling and he's so excited. And he asks Paula if he did a good thing. And she says, this is some white savior crap. You can't just swoop in and save the day and open your checkbook and think it's all okay. And meanwhile, a girl ducks her head in and is like, I'm actually fine with that. And Paula says, I know, it's fine. I just felt like I needed to say it. And I do appreciate the show acknowledging that. But yeah, sometimes, white people, opening your checkbook is, the least you can do. And you can feel good about it, but just zip the lip. Feel good. Go ahead and feel it. Feel all you want to feel. But just don't fucking talk about it all the time. That's all. Just shut up. Honestly, the older I grow, that's just the best advice overall for most situations. It's just shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. Nobody cares. Ta-da! So, they wind up running into Rebecca at the pretzel stand. And Paula is talking to her. And this is way at the end. So I won't talk about what goes on in this moment yet. But Rebecca finds out that Nathaniel is beginning to work with Paula and volunteering for these women. And it begins to have a bit of an effect on her. So then we go, let's talk then about Josh. I'll talk about Rebecca last. The thing with Josh, guys, it's so unfortunate how common this is. And I think we all know how common this is. If you are a person who dates men, or you are somebody who hangs out with men, you have to have seen this sort of thing. Now, I will say that for me, I have run into this a number of times. Owen was one of the better cases where he had a household. You know, I moved in, he owned a home, he took care of it. He was paying the bills for it and knew how to clean. He doesn't know how to cook, but everything else, he's got a handle on it. He can do it. But other than that, it's been a lot of dudes that it feels like, who raised you? Did they teach you like what soap was? What is your deal? I moved out of an apartment with Brendan, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. The second bedroom he was using as his office, and he used that bathroom exclusively to get ready while he was working, showering, etc. And I never went in there. I never touched it. I just let him do his thing, take care of it, and I used the other bathroom, and that was me minding my business. And then we go to move, and he, it turns out, had not cleaned the bathroom in all 2 years that we lived there. Not one time. When I tell you, it was a fucking horror show in there. I am not trying to be cute or funny. Honestly, the office was just as bad because that was where the cat boxes were. And he did not take care of the cat boxes the way he was supposed to either. And so there were like cat turds in the carpet. There were cat turds buried in piles of dirty laundry that he had left around the room. It was an actual nightmare scenario. Like my anxiety. Oh, you guys. So, yeah. Josh is going to stay at Rebecca's place while she's gone because he just up and moved out of Hector's mom's place without actually finding a new place to live. Which, it's weird that Rebecca congratulates him on moving out when he doesn't actually have anywhere yet. To me, that's not a thing that you congratulate. That's bad planning. That's poor judgment. You figure out where the fuck you're gonna go first, dude. Like, I don't get it. And the whole thing is, I guess, meant to be leading towards him moving back in with her. But it doesn't feel natural in the moment, you know? I don't know. I feel like it could very easily have been, we will have him, like, ask if he can stay at Rebecca's while she's gone, just to get out of the house that he's sharing with Hector's mom, because he wants to see, like, how it feels to be by himself. And he realizes that he doesn't really like it. And, you know, she offers him the alternative of moving in with her. Like, it just could be done a different way. But maybe this is supposed to just be a reflection on the fact that he feels like a kid still in a lot of ways. He isn't prepared. He hasn't figured it out. He didn't plan ahead, you know? So yeah, we get this amazing montage of him attempting to do a variety of like pretty mundane household things and really not knowing his ass from his elbow. First, he tries to make spaghetti. And this scene, you guys, look, I am defensive of Owen because he really does. He's a grown-up, but this does not feel that far off from how it feels when I watch him cook. You guys, he takes a frying pan, like a skillet, out. He pours bottled water into the skillet, like an inch of it into the skillet. He cracks the spaghetti in half and pops it on the pan, not covered in water, and the water is not, he doesn't turn the burner on. then puts the lid over it and pops the whole thing in the oven at 350, which that pan definitely has like a rubberized grip and rubber handle, and would melt and ruin that entire oven. 1000% it would. I promise. That is not an oven safe pan. That doesn't actually come up this episode, but that is what would happen. And it's okay, see, this is exactly what I was going to address. Lauren says, I know they're exaggerating, but you've never seen someone boil water before, ? So here's the thing, Lauren, is that you would be shocked at the number of people, and I'm going to lean towards dudes, but people who they have not. They will walk in and the water's boiling. They will see a pan being put on the stove, but they won't like stay and watch the whole thing. And even if they do see parts of it, it doesn't stick, because for them it doesn't feel relevant or like information that they need to retain. That's the hardest part for me to understand. I pay attention to everything. And especially in domestic matters, when you are a woman, you are socialized to assume that's going to be important for you. And so you just zero in and you're like, okay, how does this work? I can't imagine. It's sort of like, imagine if you always went somewhere using your GPS, and you did go every single day, but your GPS showed you how to go every step of the way, every time. And you were only looking at your GPS. So when it came time to get there without it, because your phone died, you have absolutely no idea. You've gone to this place every day for a year and a half. And so you should fucking know. But none of what's actually relevant about finding your way there has implanted itself and stuck in your brain. So I have seen this, like, even making something like Easy Mac, Owen will check with me about simple stuff like, do you put the pasta in before the water's boiling? Hint, no, you don't. You wait for the water to boil. But things like that, and he'll be surprised at how long it takes for water to boil. He will, like, the straining of the pasta, he's like, do you pour all the water out of it? Like, how, like, do you leave some in for the sauce? I'm like, the instructions for how to make mac and cheese are on the box. Just read the instructions. But they don't want to fucking do that. And that's the thing that is so annoying about it, is I can understand not knowing because society has told you that you don't have to. But the information is there for you if you want it, and you don't go and find it. And this is something that I can't excuse. The education is at your fingertips, and it's not hard. But you are choosing to let other people do everything for you instead of finding out yourself how to do a thing. And like, this is something that comes up a lot in like the Am I the Asshole Reddit threads, where guys will just be like, no, I don't cook, but I don't know how. She's better at cooking than me. She didn't fucking spring from the womb knowing how to make flan, Jack. She learned. She watched people do it. She watched YouTube videos. She read recipes. She figured it out because she has a brain in her head. You could too, if you gave a fuck, but you don't give a fuck. Just admit it. You don't want to learn. You're not interested in that. It's easier for you to throw your hands up and be helpless and let them do it than it is for you to actually add a skill. Why would you want to learn when society has given you a free pass to sit back on the couch and let them do it while you watch TV? You know? And in my case, it's such a frustrating thing because on the one hand, I like cooking and I would love to like be able to have my way in my kitchen all the ways that I want every day and have the energy for that. And my food is better than anybody's food. So I always want to eat my own cooking. But I would be lying if I said I wouldn't like to be in a situation where I could let Owen make dinner occasionally and feel like he would do it. And it's not just with him. It's like not just the fact that he doesn't know how. He gets so anxious and upset about it because he doesn't know. And he's worried he's going to burn something. He's worried he's going to ruin something. And his anxiety transfers to me. So I can't sit and just watch TV and let him figure it out because I can hear him cutting himself in the kitchen. I can hear him looking through the pans and not finding the pan that he thinks he needs that is actually hanging up somewhere else. All of these things that I'm like, I need to be able to step back and relinquish control a little so that he will learn. But I'm not entirely willing to do that either because it stresses me the fuck out. It's a bad fucking cycle is what I'm saying. Society has really done a number on men and women. It's a disaster. Like, there is no reason for men to live like this. There was a thread that I saw pop up in my memories a few weeks ago. And at the time that I shared it, it was like I shared it in like 2015. I thought it was so cute. And now I'm reading it as a grown-ass woman with like a life going, that's not fucking cute. What was I thinking? And it was a dude sharing how his girlfriend taught him about putting a second shower liner in your bathtub to keep the water from pouring down the shower curtain onto the floor. And he was just like, you know, talking about how living with a woman, you learn all of these things that are like better for your life. And about having like a separate washcloth or all of these things that are basic fucking like being a grown up and living. And he was praising her to the skies for knowing this shit. And like I said, I shared it and thought it was cute once upon a time. And now I'm just disgusted because who raised this guy that he doesn't know this shit? That he hasn't noticed? You put a fucking shower liner in. It's not... What? Are you kidding? Is this a joke? Are you doing a bit? What is this? Ugh. So, yeah, he puts the fucking thing in the oven. I love that he changes the temperature of the oven to 355 and up from 350. Like, where'd you get that number, Josh? He's acting like he knows anything. Then we see him trying to put the fitted sheet on the bed, and he cannot figure this out. And it's like, again, it's funny in its way, but also it's not funny. Because why are you this bad at anything that's very simple, actually? Trying to get the laundry out of the washer and saying, ugh, it's wet. And then putting it into the dryer. And taking 20 minutes to do that and being shocked at how long it takes to dry. Eventually, Daryl comes to the door because he thought that maybe Rebecca wanted to see the baby. Because she has evidently, like, not interacted with this child at all, even though it is her egg. And Josh is in a state. He's wrapped in a wet comforter. The house is a fucking disaster. There is clothing thrown everywhere. And Daryl says that he'll help Josh, and Josh is very excited. He says, "Will you help me? Right now?" And he says, "Sure, all right." So then we get the pop music playing. Here we go. Now just follow my advice and it'll be a breeze. Okay. And this is like, I know that this is spoofing something. I've seen this style before, but I can't think what it's from. It is really hilarious. So, okay, here we go. If you see something that's not where it belongs, just pick it up and put it where it belongs. So Josh picks up his shirt and tosses it into the hamper. He smiles with satisfaction. And then Daryl says, okay, and just keep doing that until the whole room is clean. And just Josh is like, wait, I thought we were going to do a whole thing where you teach me how to clean up. And Daryl says, Josh, what am I, your maid? Bye. Honestly, I fucking, oh. pretending you don't know how to tidy up. Literally, what do you think it is? Do you really think that women just like have a power that you don't have? I think they do. I think they think that. Like, how many men don't realize the amount of work that goes into a house continuing to look the way that it looks every day? Their socks just wind up in the hamper. It's so weird. They take their socks off in the living room every night, and yet their socks always wind up in the hamper, and that's cool feature. Nice house. Your house puts my socks in the hamper. It's amazing. You fucking cunt. Oh my God. Put your fucking socks away. You dick. I can't understand how people go through life not comprehending the labor. How do you live? I mean, you're a burden. You're a burden. Anybody who gets in a relationship with you is signing up to labor on your behalf. And for what? Amazing dick? Doubt it. I doubt it. Lots of money? Maybe? But I doubt it. I also doubt that. Really, nothing. And eventually, they will figure it out. That they signed up to do all this shit for you in exchange for nothing. And they will leave. And you will deserve it. And I will not feel bad for you. So that's how that goes. Lauren says this also brings into question his living situation with Hector's mom and why everyone was giving him trouble about it. Renting a room from your friend's mom isn't so bad. Living with her and her picking up after you like a young child is weird. Well, yeah. So I said last episode how I was like a little weirded out at everybody giving him such a hard time about it. And realizing now that that's probably a major factor in what was going on was her taking care of him. And then he even mentions to Rebecca when she comes home that they were staying in the same bedroom. They didn't even have separate bedrooms. Super weird. Extra exponentially weird. No. It was bad enough, and that's like so much worse. So, on the one hand, Daryl being like, use your fucking common sense, you idiot, and leaving is great. On the other hand, I did kind of want Daryl to walk Josh through making spaghetti. I just wanted to see him find out what Josh had done to make spaghetti and just be like, oh my God, and then show him how to make spaghetti. Look, if you're going to live by yourself and you don't know how to cook, you don't need to start off learning how to roast a whole chicken and cut it and carve it and whatever. But you need to learn how to make pasta or rice. Rice is hard, too. I recommend starting with pasta. I only have fucking started to get rice right in the past, 5-6 years. It is not easy. You got to learn how to make rice. You've got to learn how to just do basic, knife skills and using certain appliances, things like that. And then you're going to be mostly able to feed yourself. Scramble an egg, that kind of stuff. It doesn't need to be complicated, but this basic, honey, this is too basic for a home ec class in high school kind of thing. So we eventually get to a point where Rebecca comes home and sees her place is clean, and he tells her something about how it's just it was just common sense. And previously, he had been talking to Daryl after he cleaned the place up and wants to do something nice for Rebecca because she has clearly been having a hard time visiting her mom. And he says that he wants to put a mural of the fall on the wall because she's been saying how she misses the seasons in the Northeast, which is relatable. And Daryl expresses some doubt as to whether or not Josh is up for it, and they realize that Estrella is dead. And Josh goes and buys a new Estrella And then when Rebecca comes home, she finds this mural up that it turns out Josh did not put up himself. He paid somebody to do it because he himself glued his feet to the floor. And I really enjoyed so much that in the end, he decides that he's going to hire somebody. Look, that's the other thing. If you don't know how to do stuff and you don't want to learn, I'm not going to just pay somebody. Be willing to invest in the labor for it, but don't treat it like it's something that you have the right to, you know? I'm not going to a random dude and dating them so that I can get them to fix my car for me all the time. Because that's an expectation that all men know how to do that, and it's not my job. And so I'm getting in relationships for car maintenance. But there are guys out there who genuinely see getting in a relationship with a woman as getting access to their labor, and that's part of the deal. And no, so many no's. So, and I love this too, that despite the fact that he feels very much like he's fucking failing at life after a couple of days by himself, when he tells Rebecca that he killed Estrella and he's really sorry, she says that that's the fourth Estrella. And hey, Heather doesn't know, and she never will. It's a great moment of being look, some people may have it together more than you. They may know more than you about how to accomplish certain things. But that does not by any means mean that they don't make mistakes or fuck up or forget things or ruin things sometimes. And that, I think, is also a key. You know, we all can stand to be reminded of that. I give myself such a hard time because I haven't cleaned my baseboards in a long time. I would like a show of hands from everyone in the audience who has cleaned their baseboards within the last 3 weeks. Anybody? Out there? Last 2 months? Anybody? Baseboards? All of them? Gone around and just done them all? Anybody? No. Because people don't do that. We do our emergency cleans when we realize that people are coming over. We do our panic cleans and clean the baseboards that are visible when you are just a guest coming over for a little bit. We do the bare minimum because that's what we have the time and energy for. So now I can afford to have people come every 2 weeks and they mop and they dust and they vacuum and they clean my baseboards. I pay people to do that because I don't want to, and I can afford it now. And that's all I'm saying. Pay people to come in and put shit up on your walls. You don't have to prove anything if you can't do it, but be willing to pay or compensate in some way and do not expect it for nothing. The jobs that are for men just happen to be the jobs that get done twice a week. I take out the trash. I mow the lawn. I change the oil in the car. Those are my chores. I do my fair share. Bitch, sit down. Sit down, and you don't get to eat again until we need to take the trash out, and that's how that's going to be. Shut the fuck up. Okay, so let's go back to Rebecca. Rebecca. She uses her fucking mugshot on the dating app. Hobbies. I love the name of this app too. Stranger Arranger. Group therapy for borderline personality disorder. Recovering from recent suicide attempt. Have been known to stalk my exes under hobbies. This dating profile looks like a revenge profile that would be put up by an ex who is disgruntled. That's what this looks like. Let's see. Oh, people are saying crickets in the chat. I cleaned them last spring in a deep quarantine house clean, says Lauren. See, this is what I mean. Louise says, I vacuumed the ones in the bathroom. Stray hair makes me grossed out, so I have to vacuum the bathroom. I don't feel like I've ever vacuumed in the bathroom, but that's not a terrible idea. Anna says moving out only, right? So this is Rebecca's struggle this episode, is figuring out how much to share. Because she wants to be honest. But when do we actually need to worry about complete honesty? And she is kind of going for an all-in approach. But it's not like necessary, as she figures out later. And a major part of that is deciding that she doesn't care what people think. And this is such a huge moment that I think probably some of you have also experienced. I think that you get to a certain age and you suddenly begin to realize that, like, it's not that you just don't care, but you realize that you care so little that it may as well be not at all. And it's so freeing, and it's wild when it happens, because you can remember distinctly back when you did care. And you partially are like, I know that in some ways my past self, like, maybe looked better or did other things that were more socially accepted and so got more praise. And I am sacrificing that. But the things that I'm sacrificing I just value them so much less now that I don't mind that sacrifice anymore. And Rebecca gets there eventually. So it turns out that her mother is going to be being honored at this event for a Jewish women's charity. And I don't mean for Jewish women, but it's like, they run the charity. And she has been playing a major role somehow. And I'm trying to remember the name of the female comedian that she claims to be close personal friends with. They only say it like 7 times this episode. But the whole thing is basically that her mother, it turns out, knows all about what Rebecca has been going through. Rebecca goes to talk to her mother with Valencia for moral support because she's so afraid of having to tell her mom all of the things. And it turns out that her mother knows already, has a Google alert for Rebecca Bunch. And one would think this would make it easier. But as it turns out, all she cares about is whether Rebecca is still a big shot lawyer. And she keeps saying it that way, big shot lawyer. All the other shit that Rebecca has done, her mental health, her attempting murder, all of that is second to her career. And can I just say, you guys, I have a very checkered relationship with my mother in a lot of ways. But this is something that I can say has never been a problem. And I am so thankful for that. It's very clear, especially with the ending of Forget It, when we have a couple of mothers, like we have a backup 4 mothers, the Wasp, who won't be confrontational. Then we have an African woman, and I don't know if she is from Nigeria, but it feels like a Nigerian accent to me. We have an Indian woman, and I'm forgetting who the other woman was. But they are all equally like aggressive about their child's shaming them somehow. And it is, I have seen this sort of thing from the outside, but I have never been subjected to it myself. And I can't imagine what it is like to have this sort of expectation hanging over your head like this. An Italian mother. Italian. Right. Oh my God. This is just, I can't, like, I put so much pressure on myself already that coming from an external source, from somebody who's supposed to love you no matter what, who is an authority figure, it would have killed me. I would have been a Nathaniel if my mother was like this. I would have absolutely like caved under the pressure and been whatever my parent wanted me to be. I know that about myself. It would have been bad. So anyway, her mother is so fixated on this and so obviously hanging all of her hopes for her daughter on this that she and I say hopes for her daughter, but it's really hopes for herself, that Rebecca finds herself, despite pledging that she's going to be totally honest, pretending that yes, indeed, she is still a senior partner at her law firm. And it's awful to watch because you know that, like, the progress Rebecca has to make here is telling her mother the truth. But in the meantime, we're going to have to watch this charade that none of us wants to watch. And I should mention, too, that we have a little bit of Valencia's girlfriend in this episode as well, because Rebecca is staying with Valencia and her girlfriend, who have a fold-down Murphy bed / refrigerator, which is so funny. And she has to literally climb over them to get to the bathroom in the morning. But I appreciated a lot, too, that Valencia is coming with her to this, because I sort of wondered if Valencia would, and I also wondered if Valencia was going to, like, snap and say something to Naomi. It wouldn't have been the same, of course, because we need Rebecca to get there herself and stand up for herself. But I would have been here for Valencia deciding to completely read Rebecca's mom. I would have been fine with that, honestly. So Rebecca, Elaine Boozler, thank you, Lauren. So eventually it turns out, because her mother's been promising everybody that Elaine Boozler is coming to this event, it turns out that Elaine Boozler is claiming that she doesn't even remember Rebecca's mother, and that she won't be coming to the event, and please stop sending us so many emails. We find out later that is a lie. Elaine absolutely remembers her, just did not like her and did not want to do her a favor. But in the short term, it's very revealing of the fact that, because there's this scene, you guys, it's just very revealing of the fact that her mother deeply cares what other people think and really wants to make this, like, certain impression. And she's a slave to that in a way that Rebecca isn't anymore. And therefore, she can see from the outside how much more neurotic and damaging it looks now, because she's out, kind of peering through the window at this point instead of immersed in it. And when you're in it all the time, it feels like it's normal to be this preoccupied with everybody else's opinion and these arbitrary sort of standards for who's better, who's winning at life, And the scene where, what is her name? Is it Adrian? We meet her mother. Oh, Audra. That's it. We meet her mother for the first time. I don't think we've met her before. But yeah, Audra is pregnant with triplets, all boys. And the pregnancy is so comical how far she's sticking out. But if you have ever seen anybody who is pregnant with twins or triplets, you know that it is comical. It looks like an optical illusion. You wouldn't believe that their body could do that. There was a girl I worked with when I first moved down here who was pregnant with twins. And it just straight up looked like that's like wrong. There's something wrong. Like you're going to break. Something's going to happen. And she was put on bed rest. I really don't think that Audra in the state she's in would be like allowed to be out at events like this. But nevertheless, she's supposedly doing so well, and they're rubbing this in Naomi's face. Eventually, Naomi basically like throws it in Audra's mother's face that she slept with her husband. And it's one of those like, when your value system is this backwards, bragging to somebody that you fucked their husband being a slap in their face feels so wrong to me, because that's something that you're supposed to be ashamed of, and yet it's seen as like you winning somehow. It's just so backward. Oh my God. But it's really a good moment to point out to us what's at stake for Naomi if this woman Elaine doesn't show up. So Rebecca is sharing with her friends, as she is wont to do, what's going on. She offers to her mother to make the speech herself. And her mother says something about how she's a big shot lawyer again, and Rebecca finally tells her the truth. And we get the Forget It song, which is so well done. I'm not entirely sure if there's something specific that we're spoofing here, or if it's just in general something like Beyonce, or if there's somebody else that, you know, maybe Madonna. But it's a great number just about how you're like shaming your mother, and I can't believe that you don't consider me, and how this is going to reflect on me. And it's really, really good. And at the end of the episode, when eventually Rebecca goes up to do the speech for her mother and gets interrupted by Valencia waving from the wings. And it turns out that she has a contact and has got Elaine Boozler here in exchange for, you know, the whole, there's some like online content creator that she's going to be like hooked up with, but it's like really good money. So she's used her she's like, you know, pulled a few strings in order to get this for Rebecca and get her out of making this speech. And they sing a song together. I had forgotten, actually, because there is another song this episode, and it's the one that her mother and Elaine sing on the stage. But Rebecca feels like, okay, today actually wound up being a win. My mom got what she wanted, and she got it due to me and my friends. And so this all actually went pretty well. She is bidding farewell to Valencia and her girlfriend, and her mother shows up and is extremely aggressive with, I found some place that will take you, allow you to be senior partner, take you back, and blah, blah, blah. And Rebecca fucking snaps and says enough in a loud, forceful enough voice that her mother actually stops and listens. And then says, essentially, I don't care about your opinion on my hair, my outfits, my weight, my career. All of that shit is off limits to you. We can go and hang out and gossip. We can talk about whatever else, but these subjects are off limits to you. And if you do not agree to that, we are not going to have a relationship of any kind at all. Is that clear? And this is such a great moment. And I love so much when, I'm forgetting Valencia's girlfriend's name, but she says, like, I'm a wasp, so I can't look over there, but I am so proud of her. Honestly, same. It's such an interesting thing, too, because being raised by a white mother whose family, like, they weren't wasps, but they aspired to be, so they imitated that behavior a lot. And then my father's side of the family, who are, you know, Catholic Hispanics and very emotive and aggressive. It was a real clashing series of demonstrations of how to be as a person. And I had to make sense of a lot of this stuff. Beth, thank you, Anna. So her mother actually says Crystal, and there's a flicker of like respect when she says it. Like she, you know, she may push Rebecca again. Almost definitely she will. But you do get the feeling that she's like a little bit proud to see her daughter taking a stand with her that she never has before. Because the whole thing is, when she's talking to Rebecca earlier about the fact that she like pushed a guy off a roof on behalf of an ex-boyfriend and that she attempted suicide to get attention, she's like, you're just the same Rebecca you've always been. And that can be such a fucking true feeling when you return home or you are again around relatives. You will feel like you made such progress in your life and things are so different. And the people around you don't see it. They're not around you enough to notice, or they assign old behaviors to you in a way that aren't actually true anymore. And it can be really difficult to break out of that, like, the sort of box that they've put you in without it feeling like you're just being like, no, that's not me. Like you can feel very petulant, but they're not looking at who you are. They're remembering who you were, and they've decided you're never going to change, and they haven't consulted you about that, you know? So I really did like this moment a lot because more than anything, it shows Rebecca growing to her mother in a direct way without Rebecca ever having to say flat out, I'm different now. No, really, I'm changing. She's just demonstrating that she's changing. She's just showing her through her actions. You can't do that anymore. I'm not fucking standing for it. And it's great. I love it. So the end of the episode, which I just don't know what to think. Josh has put up this mural, and Rebecca had been, about to maybe go out with this guy from this dating app again that she went out with one time before. And she's been looking forward to having plans and going on a date and trying to get back out there. And this dude cancels at the last second, which Josh has previously warned her is sort of the kiss of death. It just means that somebody isn't interested. And Josh, to cheer her up, he turns the heat down and he gets out a little like burner, and they sit in front of the mural and make s'mores. They toast some marshmallows. And it's a very cute thing. And all of a sudden, Rebecca begins to get the feels again and is remembering making out with him and how things had been, good at times. And he has agreed to move back in. And they have, both talked about how people will probably think this is a bad idea. And she's like, who cares what they think? I don't anymore. And in that moment, I think she's genuinely, in a good place when she says that. She's trying to do what's right for her friend. She's in a position where she has a room to spare. It just makes sense. And there really doesn't seem to be anything romantic between the two of them at all anymore. And then all of a sudden, this crops back up again. And then later on, when she's with Paula tells her, Nathaniel seems to actually be a different guy. He's really volunteering and spending money and helping. Same thing happens. And Rebecca looks at Paula and says, I don't know what's happening, but I think we're in trouble. And this is really interesting because I have enjoyed seeing Rebecca progress and become better in the way that she has her self-awareness and stuff. But mental illness doesn't do that. You don't just have linear forward progress. You relapse. That's just how it goes. And so that feels like what's happening here, except she sort of knows that's what's happening already. I'm very curious to see what happens here. And especially because since it's happening with Nathaniel as well as Josh, that puts a different spin on it. It's no longer, I'm fixated on this one guy and I think he's the answer. It's these two guys both seem appealing to me again all of a sudden, which is weird how it's just lining up. And that is a red flag that I think she's seeing that it's waving. But what do you do now? You've extended the invitation for him to move in with you. You can't just take that back. I mean, you can take it back, but it's going to be weird. And what if this goes away? What if it's something that's sort of fleeting and you finally, you realize 2 days later, oh, I don't feel that at all. But you've, told them, oh, sorry, you can't move in after all. And everything is kind of shitty now. I don't know. So I'm very curious to see what happens next on that because yikes. All I have to say is don't get back together with either of them. Obviously, they're both very wrong for you, in my opinion. But I guess we'll see. So I have to wrap up. But thank you guys again so much for listening. I really appreciate you all. And I don't, let me see when the next one is. And thank you to Lauren for commissioning this one. The next episode is a voyeur. And it will be on the 12th. So week after next. But yeah, I'll be watching that one live. Not the Person I Used to Be is the name of that one. So everybody come and hang out with me for that one. All right. Thank you again so much. I love you. And I will see you then. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.